Kyle here, bringing you the latest edition of my video blog. It's the day after UFC 136, and one can just say, wow, what a freaking card we just all witnessed last night. It was everything that we anticipated, everything that we were expecting, and truly there was 100% fireworks throughout the entire card. What I want to do, I'm just going to recap UFC 136, share my 2 cents on some of the fights. Just very quickly, as always, just going to thank the followers. Greatly appreciated. Shout out to Couch Fighter, best site on the internet for all your latest MMA news. Give it a look. Articles are coming out daily. So, like I said, quick shout out to both. Thank you again. And just want to hop right into it. UFC 136 was an epic card. I mean, the fact is that once we got to when Florian and Aldo fight was over, I was like, wow, I still can't believe we had Edgar and Maynard left to go. It almost felt like we already had a full card. So, very quickly, I just want to get into, I'll just go right down all the fights. Main card, though, okay? I'll just say very quickly, Pettis looked good. He's learning how to fight the UFC style, a little bit more wrestling. He came out and said that the game for UFC now is that you have to be more skilled in wrestling. I wouldn't say it's so much UFC. I'd say it's more, obviously wrestling is the big thing now. But I'd say it's more the division that he's in. Lightweight is a very skilled division, a lot of good wrestlers. So I'd say it's more the division itself, even though wrestling is very stressed in most divisions. But Pettis looked good. Stevens not so much. Pettis' grappling looked good. So expecting to attempt a couple more submissions, but overall, pretty impressive performance. Damian Maia, good job. But I just want to get into the main card, really. The first fight, Melvin Guillard versus Lozone. I always say his name wrong, but I tweeted as soon as the fight started, don't blink. This fight could either end in submission or end in KO or TKO. Now I was expecting Guillard to win this fight. I mean, Lozone was a huge underdog in this fight. I wouldn't say huge. The guy was a submission, very good submissions against the guy who's a very skilled striker who lacks a true ground game. So Guillard came out heavy, swinging heavy, coming, pressing, and Lozone stepped up into the pocket, caught him with a left, Guillard with the left, jumped all over it, saw it was the opportunity that Guillard would be down on the ground, and he sunk in a rear naked. He was patient. Yeah, he rolled, he flattened out Guillard, and in the beginning I was like, Guillard might make it. His chin was kind of in the guard a little bit, into the arm lock, or the rear naked, and I thought he would at least survive a little bit longer, but then he was rolled and flattened on his back, and that's it. Let's see, about Guillard, he fights aggressively, but I think he's going to learn a lesson from this fight. I remember seeing him go to the cage. It was almost like he was overly confident. Then they were talking about in the post-fight interviews, Lozone was like, listen, I didn't go to the Fan Expo. Obviously, it is about the fans, but you're preparing for a fight. It's business. Lozone was like, listen, I didn't go to the Fan Expo. I know I had business to take care of. But I guess he was there. Guillard was there the day of the fight, which I don't know. I'm not a professional fighter, but I try and be a little bit more focused. It is about the fans, but in the end, you have business to do. So Lozone was saying that, and Guillard was out there, the fans and everything on fight day. So you just leave the question. I think Lozone's focus was good. He, the way you deal with an aggressive guy, you step up in the pocket as well. Hopefully you catch him. He caught him. He jumped all over it, and he did a great job. Hats off to the guy. Really, I think. We learn here a valuable lesson like we always do. You never take anybody lightly in the octagon. Anything is possible. And those who say that rule does not apply are foolish. Or just, not foolish, just the rule does apply. Maybe not all the time, but it does. Okay? So anything is possible. Anytime. Never count anybody out. Hats off to Lozone. Guillard will rebound from this. He'll learn a valuable lesson not to come out so aggressive. Leonard Garcia, man fan. Not much could be said about this fight except it was epic. Fight of the night, most definitely. Garcia's a warrior. Nam fans, I will say, is that Nam fans boxing. He showed the importance of of having a jab in MMA. A lot of fighters have been really getting back to having very traditional boxing or very technical boxing, establishing a jab and then unloading, the being patient, always clipping him with that lead jab. And Manfan did an excellent job. Garcia's eye was absolutely, I don't want to say completely messed up, but his jab was keeping Garcia at a distance. And I'd say the one thing is Manfan was also using some body shots. His boxing looked a lot better. Garcia's a warrior. I was joking around how sloppy he was boxing, but he's a brawler. The guy, he is a talented fighter, but he was brawling yesterday. Him and Manfan brawled. They put on a show. And, I think rightfully so, Manfan won that fight. He won 2 of the 3 rounds. He outboxed Leonard Garcia. Leonard Garcia put on a great show in the 3rd, though. He almost came back and knocked out Manfan. It was a great fight. Both fighters have I want to say, they're both talented fighters. I don't know about bright futures making runs for belts, but they're going to be good gateway fighters, guys that will give you a tough fight at all times. So hats off to Manfan and Leonard Garcia for putting on an exceptional fight. Very exciting. Joe Rogan loved it, but everybody did. What a great fight. So definite fight of the night honor in a card where everybody was putting on impressive performances. Next fight is Sonnen versus Stan, and did an article on this one, said it would go to decision, but Sonnen finished this fight. And in regards to it, it's tough. I like Brian Stan. I love Chael Sonnen. They're both great fighters. I like how they're both check myself for a second. I like how they're both classy towards each other. I was going to say classy competitors. Sonnen does his own style. But this fight unfolded how we all expected it, or some of us expected, is that Sonnen's a true wrestler. Stan lacks the game. You can't teach somebody, you could only teach somebody so much how to prepare for such a talented wrestler like Chael Sonnen. So it unfolded how, at least I thought, and some people who were backing Sonnen thought it would. Wrestling, wear out Brian Stan. Once you get Sonnen in the clinch, it doesn't matter. He's a Greco-Roman guy. He's going to slam you. He's going to wear you down. He's going to break your will. And he found Brian Stan to finish. As soon as he flipped over his body when he locked in the triangle, locked in the choke, you knew it was pretty much over. There's only so long Stan could stay in that choke. And you saw as soon as his hand was up, I was like, he's going to tap. It's almost over. But Stan put up a heck of a fight. I think the biggest mistake he made was coming out in the 2nd round and throwing a kick right away. I mean, you have to keep your distance from Sonnen. Throwing a kick only gets you off balance and allows him to shoot for the double leg, which is exactly what Sonnen did. He ate it. Obviously, it hurt, but, Sonnen doesn't fail on his double legs. And then, they refs stood them up, which was a terrible call because Sonnen always works. I don't think the guy's ever not working. Sonnen gets him up against the wall again, against the cage again, takes his time, lifts Stan up, slams him down to the ground into half guard, finishes him off with the choke. Well-deserved victory. Brian Stan, hats off. You're an exceptional stand-up fighter, but got to work on the ground game. Working at Jackson's will only make you better at it. And Sonnen puts on a serious bid for a title shot. And what he does is, after the fight, calls out Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck, quote unquote. And you know what? Call it trash talk, but you know what? It makes perfect sense. Dana White's been saying that if Dan Henderson beats Shogun, then he's going to give Dan Henderson the title shot against Anderson Silva, give him his rematch. So what Sonnen's doing, it may be trash talking. Him and Silva don't like each other, but they're fighting words. As Sonnen has said in the past, this is not me being a fan, but it's fighting words. He's trying to get the card. The crowd went nuts as soon as he called out Silva. That is going to be a bigger pay-per-view draw, Sonnen versus Silva 2, than Henderson versus Silva 2. I don't care what anybody says. It's going to draw more money. And in the end, it's a business. It's all about money. So Sonnen did the right thing. And, love him or hate him, he's picking a fight. He wants to fight Silva. He wants to prove that the last fight wasn't a fluke, and he beat down Silva. He wants to get that belt. That's all he cares about. The guy's driven. He's focused. How he goes about it is, whether you love him or hate it, that's his style. Quite frankly, I think he's doing a good job. I think he just solidified or sealed that title fight on Super Bowl Sunday. And it's going to be a heck of a fight. It's going to divide MMA Nation or the MMA community, Silva Sonnen, and we're going to have ourselves one great fight and silence all the critics of people who say, well, Silva finished him anyway, or Sonnen beat him up for 4.5 rounds. We're all going to get our answers. So it can't come soon enough. Great fight. Hats off to Stan. Great fight by Sonnen, especially after a year being off and out of the cage with ring rust. the guy looked exceptional. Really great wrestler, and he finished the fight, not to a decision. Aldo Florian, I don't have much to say about it. Kenny came out, he fought tough. I would have thought Aldo would have thrown more leg kicks. Aldo won by decision, rightfully so. Kenny looked better in the first couple of rounds. As soon as he started eating some of Aldo's leg kicks, he took like 2 kicks and his legs looked like they had been through a grinder. Aldo's leg kicks are ridiculous. But the one thing about Aldo is that the guy has all this skill, but it's almost like he's holding back a little bit. He doesn't jump all over people. He fights very cautious, and that's smart. But tweeting is like, let your hands go, kid. Let the hands go. You've had chances. He's fighting so cautious, so worried about Kenny taking him to the ground. Florian did a good job. Pinning him against the wall, pinning Aldo up against the wall, and trying to wear him down. But Aldo's cardio was much better this fight. His conditioning was much better this fight. And his ground game looked good. He took Florian down to the ground, and you know what? Aldo looks like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. We all question it. He's a great stand-up. His Muay Thai is exceptional, and it's great. It's phenomenal, but we haven't really seen his ground game. And I'd say Aldo, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give him an 8. He didn't really put in any submission attempts, but you know what? He stood with Kenny Florian. He worked with Kenny Florian on the ground, and he did a good job. I just say he didn't finish the fight. He fought very cautious, and if he lets his hands go, it's like almost like he's hesitant. The guy's got all the skill in the world. He just lets it go. Aldo's a ridiculous talent. The guy's going to hold down that division. Whoever challenges him, doesn't matter if it's a wrestler or a guy who's a heavy striker. He's very well balanced. His grappling, he showed us he's more than capable of doing so. And his striking is great. His Muay Thai is great. His leg kicks could knock anybody over. And his combination striking was great. But if he could just learn to pounce on people, we know he can. It's just like ever since he's been in the UFC, he's been hesitant to pounce all over people. I'd like to see Aldo let his hands go. So, good fight. I don't know what happens with Kenny Florian. The guy looked absolutely demoralized. Respect to the guy. He stepped in the cage with a very good fighter. He took him the distance against a guy who I think is much more talented than Kenny. But Kenny fought with a lot of heart, minus his corner talking way too much, if anybody else agrees. I know they're very supportive, but it's almost like they got in his head a little too much. I'm not blaming them the reason why I lost the fight. I just remember watching the fight. I'm like, man, they are screaming the entire time. And Aldo, just for the record, Aldo wasn't holding on to the cage. Those of you who are watching, they're like, Aldo's holding on to the cage. He's holding on to the cage. Florian's corner. That wasn't the case. Okay, I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to separate him or whatever, but that wasn't the case. That just drove me nuts when I was watching. So good fight. Aldo moves on. Florian, we're going to figure it out. The guy has a great career after he does MMA, so we'll see what happens. Main event, and my goodness, what a fight. It's almost like we're seeing deja vu again. Edgar and Maynard, what a fight. What a way to finish off their third fight. And, the first round came out, both fighters looked good. Maynard, different approach. His hands were down, his hands were up. He was kind of sneaking in, moving his head a little bit more. The guy looks like he has improved a lot since his last fight, stand-up-wise. Catches Edgar again. It looks like we're seeing the same old fight. Catches him. Edgar takes a beating in the first round. And I was so nervous. I'm a big Edgar fan. Edgar showed the heart once again. He gets out of round 1. And he comes out in the second. His approach and throughout the rest of the fight until he finished it, Edgar was coming in heads on Maynard, right down the middle. And Edgar's approach after that was circle, 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 come in and out. There's no better fighter in MMA coming in and out of the pocket and landing combination strikes. Frankie Edgar was phenomenal yesterday at UFC 136. He fought with heart. He altered his game plan. He listened to his corner. His boxing was great. He out-grappled Maynard for the parts that they were. And Edgar completely dominated Maynard in all those rounds. Following that, whether you believe it or not, that's what I thought. Edgar came out a completely different fight, fresh, like he'd never taken a beating in that first round. Comes out, he TKOs Maynard. He is the reigning champion at lightweight and leaves us to question what is the next step. Who does Frankie Edgar fight next? So the guy's a champion. He's a true champion. The guy fights with heart. He's heroic. I mean, really, that guy, all the other champions in the UFC can learn a lesson from him. Fighting with heart, never giving up, resilience, resolve, you name it. Frankie Edgar is a one-of-a-kind champion in the UFC. Now wraps it up. UFC 136 was a spectacular card. If you didn't see it, I hope you give it a watch. Once again, thanks to the followers, thanks to the Couch Fire, a big shout out to them. Hope wherever you were watching UFC 136, you had a great time. This is Kyle Galani signing off. I'm out of here.